everybody, today I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison video with two different 30-inch professional grade tool carts. I have the Blue Point, which I purchased from Snap-on's website, and after tax and shipping I spent over $900 on it. And then I went to my local Harbor Freight and picked up the brand new US General Series 2 for under $200 during their parking lot sale. What I'm going to do in this video is give you some side-by-side shots of both of these. I'll be able to show you exactly what makes them different and show you features that might be very similar, and you can make your mind up as to which one's going to be best for you. They both require assembly, and with a timer running you can see exactly how long that should take you. The Blue Point comes in a much larger box, and this is because it's about 90% assembled. Once you remove the packaging, just bolt on the bracket for the folding side tray, install the large metal panel onto the side, add the main handle above that, and then using a small screwdriver, install the small handle onto the lid. The last step is to install the rubber protective bumpers onto the four legs, and then you're completely done. Start to finish, it should take you somewhere around 30 minutes. The US General's box is about half the size, so it is easier to move as well as load into your vehicle, but there's also more assembly required. Now after you lay out the parts, flip the bottom tray upside down and install the casters, tightening those nuts and bolts fully. Everything else during the assembly process should only be hand tight until the very end. Next you'll attach the side legs, center support braces as well as the side tray. Then remove all the drawers from the top portion. This greatly reduces the overall weight and it makes lifting it into place much easier. Once you set the top in place, reinstall the drawers, being very careful to insert both sides back into the slides evenly. This does take patience, so don't force it and bend anything. Attach the main side handle, and if you opt for a folding side tray, install that also at this time. Once everything is together with the nuts and bolts only hand tight, start at the top of the unit and tighten them up fully one by one. The US General took me just under 1 hour to put together, which is roughly twice as long as the Blue Point's 30-minute assembly time. Side by side, the overall design and dimensions are very similar with the two carts. And after the accessories are installed, both carts measure 41 inches high, 36 inches wide, and just over 22 inches deep. The Blue Point has 4 drawers which lock when the lid's shut, however they do not lock in place when it's open. It has a total storage capacity in those drawers of 4,432 cubic inches, which is slightly less than the Harbor Freight. The US General has 5 drawers which lock when the lid's shut, and with the lid open, each of them also has a spring-loaded tab which keeps them shut until you push that tab over to release them. It has a higher total storage capacity in the drawers, coming in at 4,572 cubic inches. They both come with a full set of pre-cut drawer liners, including large ones for the top section as well as the bottom tray. And remember, locking up your tools when you're not around is definitely a good idea, and both carts come with keyed locks in order to keep things secure. The Blue Point uses a standard lock cylinder that includes 2 matching keys. The US General has an upgraded design from the standard key, which was used on the original cart, to now a 7-pin tubular lock with 4 matching keys. But the drawers, however, are physically locked when the lid is pressing down on 2 separate plungers near the hinge, and when those are pressed down, bars hidden inside the rear of the box actually press down on the back of the drawers, locking them in place. If your drawers are not pushed in fully, the bars cannot engage them, and even if the lid is shut and locked, the drawers will remain unlocked and accessible. Each cart uses 5-inch heavy-duty greasable casters, and the Blue Point has 2 noticeable upgrades over the Harbor Freight. It's using 4 swivel casters, 2 being locking versions and then 2 non-locking, which makes maneuvering it around a tight shop very easy. The negative here would be a tendency for the cart to wander as you're pushing it around. Because of the 4 swivel casters, the cart will not track straight and requires more effort to steer. It also has 2 Zerk fittings per caster, and just like the Harbor Freight, it can be greased around the top bearing, which will allow the caster to swivel, but it also has a secondary fitting which allows you to grease the axle. The Harbor Freight has 2 locking swivel casters, and then 2 standard fixed casters. Right out of the box, it's not as easy to move around tight areas as the Blue Point, since only one side's going to pivot. But moving it around is more stable, and it steers just like a shopping cart. However, there is a simple upgrade that's fairly inexpensive if you want the same setup as the Blue Point. You can swap out those two fixed casters with some replacement swivel versions. And I bought two of these non-locking 5-inch swivel casters for $18 each. They bolt right up using the exact same hardware, and it's a direct replacement for the ones you'll take off. The bottom section underneath of the drawers is good for larger and bulkier items such as shop fluids, car parts, or jack stands. And if you notice, the Blue Point has more room since the frame is spot welded together versus being bolted together like the US General. Due to the additional metal support framing underneath the top of the US General, there's less overall storage capacity in that area, coming in with a total of 4.9 cubic feet. The welded design of the Blue Point does not utilize additional framing, and its storage area is roughly 14% larger, coming in at 5.6 cubic feet. Two other features which are only found on the Blue Point are this metal side panel and the rubber bumpers on all four legs. Now, originally I thought the side panel was a metal pegboard. However, it turns out it only works with their included shelf and side tray as far as I can tell, and regular metal pegboard pegs unfortunately don't work with it. Snap-on sells replacement parts on their site, and I actually bought a side panel and a full set of rubber bumpers for under $60 shipped, meaning you can easily buy them for a US General cart and add them if you want those features, and it's not going to cost you a lot of money. Now, after looking at it, I would probably avoid the side panel since it's not a metal pegboard and just stick to the rubber bumpers. The set of 8 of those only costs about $30, and Snap-on has free shipping on their website. Although they aren't a perfect fit for the US General because they are made of rubber, they can be trimmed very easily. And then the back of them has pre-installed adhesive strips that you peel off and then press them into place. I'll put a link down in the description so you can check those out. And when I bought them, it said that they were back ordered, but they were delivered to my house in less than a week. Each cart has the large side handle for moving it around, but the US General has put more thought into their design because when you notice how high up those handles extend, the US General is still below the surface of the lid. With the Blue Point's lid shut, you can see that the handle actually extends above it. Now, this might not seem like a big deal at first, but let's say you lay a longer tool or item on top of your cart, the Blue Point's handle will actually prevent it from laying flat, where the US General does not hit the same item and it rests securely against the lid. One of my biggest complaints with the Blue Point is the included folding side tray. It does not permanently attach to the cart and literally has 3 small tabs that fit into slots, with only gravity holding it in place. If you bumped into it or had too much weight on one side, it could pop right off of there. And let's say you drop an expensive tool or part because of that tray, it could cost you a lot of money. It's 13 inches wide, 15 inches deep, and it has a total surface area of 195 square inches. The US General's tray is 47% larger. It comes in at 18 inches wide, 16 inches deep, and its total surface area is 288 square inches. Along with that, the tray is bolted to the side of the box and cannot accidentally pop off like the Blue Point's modular design. Both side trays fold down flat against the side when not in use, and they're painted to match the carts. Now, on the left side, underneath of the handles, I have small storage shelves installed on both carts. The US General's is bolted in place and cannot move, and the Blue Point's is that same modular design being held on with those 3 small tabs. There's no way to permanently attach it, just like that folding side tray. But for small cans of, let's say, WD-40, brake cleaner, or spray paint, this is a very good place to store those out of the way. If you remember, late last year, I released my top 5 picks for the best automotive tools at Harbor Freight, and my number 1 pick was the original red 30-inch cart. With really only one major complaint, and that was the fact that the lid did not open to a true 90-degree angle and was leaning forward slightly. I was concerned that over time the struts would prematurely fail due to this added weight that was being applied from the lid, and had mentioned this same concern to the product design team at Harbor Freight early in the spring of 2017. I completely forgot about it, but to my surprise, a few months ago, they released these new Series 2 carts, and the lid issue has now been fixed, and they're selling them in 3 different colors: red, black, as well as blue. The updated lid stands at a true 90-degree angle, which prevents unnecessary stress on those struts, and the weight of the lid is now being placed on the hinge, keeping the struts working well over time. The Blue Point shares this design, and its lid also opens to a full 90-degree angle. One minor difference here is that the Harbor Freight has nylon lock nuts attaching the struts to the lid, while the Blue Point has quick release pins allowing you to disconnect those struts and then fold the lid back against the rear of the box. Alternatively, if you wanted to have the same feature on the US General, simply remove the nylon lock nuts and install standard wing nuts in their place. You can spin them on and off by hand, you can easily remove that strut and fold the lid back, and then to reinstall it, just put the struts back in place and tighten the wing nuts back up. Now, I don't see a use for this in my garage, so I'll be leaving the lid permanently attached to the struts using those nylon lock nuts. Lastly, taking a look at the top storage area, they're almost identical except for one minor difference. The Harbor Freight side areas, where you would place longer tools such as ratchets, extensions, or screwdrivers, is at the same depth as the middle section, coming in at 4 3/4 inches. The sizes of the holes in this area may be too small for some of your larger tools such as a breaker bar, so you would need to widen those using a step drill bit if needed. The Blue Point has a deeper recessed area on both sides, coming in at 7 inches, and would allow for longer handles to be placed there. However, any tool over 10.5 inches long, not including the handle, will only fit in the very center hole on either side. This is due to a secondary metal section which is underneath, so for things like a longer ratchet, they would actually hit that metal and then stick up versus hanging freely like they would with the US General. Considering that both of these carts are made in China, which is clearly shown on the outside of each of their packaging, and the fact that they have very similar dimensions and functionality, as well as upgraded features like ball bearing slides and 5-inch casters, it's very surprising to me the huge difference in price. I paid over $900 for the Blue Point and under $200 for the US General. After factoring in the upgrades such as an add-on side shelf, rubber bumpers, replacement swivel casters, and a side panel, you'd still be under $300 for the US General and would have almost the same cart as the Blue Point at a small fraction of the price. Now, what I'd like to know is, what do you think of these two carts? Which one would you buy, and which one do you think is a better deal? And if you've ever owned or used one of these, how are they holding up and would you recommend them? Leave a comment below this video with your thoughts or experience with each of these. So as people are researching professional grade tool carts, your comment might really help them out. If you like this video, please click like. If you like my channel, please click subscribe. And thanks for watching.